Here with Robert Barnes. Mr. Barnes, can you give us an update on what just happened inside the courthouse?
So we had a full hearing, and the government was unable to produce any evidence that any person in Pennsylvania or anywhere in the world has ever been harmed by any product of Amos Miller. That means they've had all these years to investigate. They've been able to cross-check every pathogen that exists unknown to man. And at the end of it, what they come up with is that not a single consumer of his products has any complaint against him. You're talking about millions of products, thousands of Americans, and all of them uniformly, all the ones that testified, almost 400 people signed statements under penalty of perjury that they desperately need what Amos Miller provides for their health, for their family's health, for religious and politically expressive purposes, for things that are supposed to be protected under the Constitution. The only credible expert witness testified that she thought there was no risk of any harm from Amos Miller's products, and that in fact they were of critical benefit to people, not only those who testified, but to those who haven't yet had the joy of having products from Amos Miller's organic farm. We're going to figure out whether, are you as a farmer allowed to make your own food? Are you allowed, the state testified that they don't even think you're allowed to make food without their permission, eat food without their permission, purchase food without their permission. If they don't, you're not even allowed to do it on your own farm. In this case, they've been rationing food, telling Amos how much he can eat, how much he can feed his own family, how he can't even feed his own pigs. That's how insane it's got. It's got to the point the state of Pennsylvania thinks they should have a complete monopoly on all food everywhere.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Sovereign Sisters podcast. And today we're going to explore the intersection of agriculture, sustainability, and community empowerment. We have a special guest today, our sovereign brother, Bruce Haines. He's a true steward of the land, and he epitomizes the philosophies of homesteading, clean food production. For over a decade, Bruce has embarked on a remarkable journey towards clean eating and sustainable living. With an impressive 11-year commitment to this clean food journey, Bruce has honed his skills and passion for producing chemical-free food. Nestled in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania, the Haines homestead stands as a testament of dedication to sustainable agriculture. For the past 7 years, he's diligently cultivated his land, employing methods that prioritize health of the soil and the well-being of his community. Now, Bruce's roots in this movement run deep, as he hails from the neighboring Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And growing up in the heart of the Amish country, Bruce was instilled with a profound appreciation for the land and its bounty from an early age. So join us as we go through his explanation of the current situation with Amos Miller, the organic Amish farmer in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which has gained visibility into the challenges with sustainable farming in a world of our current political overlords. So welcome to the podcast, Bruce.
Thank you.
So let's just start off. What can you tell us about this Amos Miller court hearing?
Okay, well, the clip that you played at the beginning there, that was filmed after the hearing on Thursday. He was called into court. He went through the hearing. The judge deferred the decision. He wasn't going to make it right there on the spot. I suspect it was because there was a ton of people out on the sidewalk showing support for Amos. I don't think he wanted to rule against Amos with all those people standing out there. Didn't want to risk problems, but Friday he came back and made his ruling, and he ruled against Amos, that Amos has to stop selling milk, raw milk, and raw milk related products like cheese, kefir, yogurt, butter, that sort of stuff. So they ruled against him. I have not heard as to whether or not they are appealing the decision yet. But I imagine that is probably a possibility. I'm not sure how much more you want me to elaborate on that, or you want.
Well, can I just say, we live in an upside down world. This is crazy. How is our government legally allowed to poison us and keep us sick? And they fight us over the true healthy things that we're actually trying to do.
Yes.
It should really throw up a red light for a lot of people now.
It is. It is. And his case is particularly important because whichever way it goes, it will set a legal precedence for all the other states. So Amos Miller doesn't sell to the public. You cannot just walk onto his farm and go into his shop and purchase milk. He is not a for public um, retail operation. It is a private membership club. You have to pay a membership fee in order to purchase his products.
So it's
These,
like a CSA where you're actually a farmer yourself, really. You're
to an
investing
extent,
in his business.
to an extent, it is he is actually more closely related to a like a country club than he is a CSA.
It's
So
like concierge medicine.
country clubs don't have to operate within the scope of the law. They can discriminate against whoever they want to as in membership because they are a private membership. They could not allow somebody to become a member based on race or religion or whatever. A private membership food club sort of falls in the same way, and as a result, these private clubs are saying that because they're not selling to the public, it is a private membership. They also don't have to follow the letter of the, the law.
So
So
can you elaborate a little bit about what specifically in Pennsylvania, what is that law and for the
okay,
agricultural thing
right,
that
right,
separate since he's a membership organization?
right. So in the case of what he's went to court for this time, because this is not the first time that they've raided him and shut him down. Um, Mainstream media was a little they weren't completely dishonest, but they were misleading in their representation of this. They would start out by saying that um, uh, listeria was found in raw milk on his premises. Well, it wasn't his raw milk. He was storing it for somebody else. um, and that's really key because the media doesn't tell you that part. all all this was about was the fact that he did not go to the Department of Agriculture and get a permit to be able to sell raw milk. That is all this is about. It has nothing to do with his products being unsafe. Nobody has ever gotten sick, just like the lawyer said. There has been nothing filed against him, complaint wise, that his product didn't do what it was supposed to or it was contaminated with something. This is all about him not getting that little piece of paper from the government saying that he is allowed to do this.
And is that required with a
It is
membership
required.
organization?
Every milk producer in Pennsylvania has to have a permit from the state. Okay, regardless of whether it's raw or not. The pasteurized guys, they have to get a permit to sell their white water just as the same as a raw milk provider.
Yeah.
Um,
But the licensing through the states, where it says like the organic licensing, there's so many loopholes that people
oh
can
yeah,
go through and it's not truly organic. Like for instance, I used to work for a farmer who sold grass-fed meats. He said when meat is labeled as grass-fed in the store, the cow can technically only be fed one handful of grass its entire life and still be labeled as grass-fed.
right.
You go
Yes,
to the store and you see, what is it? Vegetarian fed chickens. Every case of chicken eggs says vegetarian fed chickens. They're not vegetarians. They eat
no,
worms and bugs. And,
yes,
it's
yeah,
just
yes,
crazy. And then the free range, they
right,
have grown these animals so fast on steroids and hormones and make them so sick. Their legs are maimed. They can't move. Yet
mhm,
they can label them as free range because at the end of this huge barn that they can't even walk across, they have one little door for them to go out.
right.
How is this
And most of
possible?
them don't. Most of them
Exactly.
won't go out the door. So this is getting off the topic, but to go back to your free range chicken, okay? There's a little door with maybe 15 by 15 plot of land outside of that door. So, but they don't have access to go outside from day one. They won't allow those chickens out for probably the first 3 or 4 weeks because it's not safe for them to be out there. They're too young. They're too small. And then they don't allow them there for the last week of their life because they need to keep them in a bio-contained area to make sure that they don't pick up any diseases outside. So they really only get, at best, about a week outside if they go outside. Having spent the rest of their life outside, they're not going outside very much.
Yeah.
But this is what I think we're trying to accomplish in tonight's podcast is the fact that this government overreach, the food that we're eating, most people have no idea where it really comes from and how bad the situation is. Um, and then you have people that are trying to do clean food, chemical free, pesticide free, that are the ones that are getting slapped on the wrist and given fines or penalties or lawsuits. I mean, all kinds of stuff. They're not going after the big ag who's producing food that is actually making you sick. And that's the biggest problem with this. And people need to wake up to what's really going on. So we need to be supporting these small farms. We need to be buying from them. We need to be going to these protests and showing the mass amount of people that do not want or that want actually clean food and don't want the big ag.
I think it all comes down to following the money.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
The government overreach is because they are supported by these industries that pay billions of dollars in all sorts of ways to get what they want, but they're making that money back on the back end because literally some people have no choice but to buy the commercialized food. When you have small farms like your farm and like Amos Miller's farm, it is the community that supports them. Well, the local government and the larger government is not getting much money out of it. So you become kind of pesky to them. You're making money without them making money. And that's the bottom line. Where's
Right.
the money coming from?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it also goes back to control too. Who was it? Kissinger said, control the food, control the people. I
Yeah,
think it
the
was in
poisoned food is
yes,
less. It's cheaper
yes,
than the
yes.
organic foods, you know?
It is. It
It
is.
wouldn't have to be. That's the point. And we'll go back to the Amos Miller thing, but I think the money issue is big here. The control issue is big here. But I think what we're talking about tonight is the overstepping. How you can go
Absolutely.
in and ruin a man's business with actually no harm ever been done.
Well, it's not so much that also just that they're ruining his business. In both this case and the last time they raided his property, he was not allowed to even feed any of those products to his family. Okay, there is no law in Pennsylvania that says that you can't, produce your own food or butcher your own animals on your property for your own consumption.
Hmm.
But somehow they deemed that those products were not safe. They slapped those sticker seals on all his freezers and refrigerators, so that if he had opened them up to get something out for his kids, the seal would be broken, and they would prosecute him for that.
He
I
wasn't
think
even
it,
allowed to feed it to his animals, right?
correct. Yes, yes, yes. And anybody that knows anything about raw milk and pigs is that when you're processing the milk for other things like butter or cheese or whatever, all that waste stuff, the pigs will absolutely go crazy for that. And it's one of the healthiest things for them to have too. Um, but going to the overreach, I think it was in 2010 in Iowa there was a raw milk case, and it made it all the way to the federal courts in Iowa, and the courts actually said that we do not have the right to obtain the food of our choice. They put that in the court documents.
So they're literally saying that we are slaves. That
Yes.
literally means that we're
Yes.
slaves,
Now,
you know?
without going down this rabbit hole, you could say that we do not have any rights. Um, rights are a product of a system that wants us to feel comfortable under their control. That what we really need to do is protect our dominion, and rather than our rights. But that's a completely different conversation.
Well, that's why we're here for sovereignty. I mean,
Yes.
that's really what it boils down to,
Right. Right.
reclaiming your sovereignty and not
Yes.
allowing the overreach to get
Right.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look what they did with the GMO corn years ago. I
Yes.
mean, they would plant their GMO crap across from an organic farmer. The wind would pick up and the GMO corn would pollinate the organic farmer's corn,
Right.
and they would sue that farmer for stealing their patented property, and
Yes.
they would win.
Yes.
Monsanto was winning all these cases, and these organic farmers were losing their farms. And even if they did continue to have their farmland, it was tainted now, and they weren't allowed, they didn't have the organic label anymore because of that. I think they had to wait 5 years before they could grow
It's
again.
3 years. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
I think it's important to recognize or acknowledge that to an extent we have put ourselves in this position. Every time there's a case of some foodborne disease from big ag, some well-intentioned parent is lobbying the government for tighter food restrictions. We're begging the government to protect us. I When 9/11 happened, the Patriot Act came out, and all the opponents of that were like, well, we're trading our freedom for safety. Patriot Act was a piece of cake for them. We traded our freedom for safety a long time ago when we allowed them to put in the Department of Ag and the FDA and all those agencies that are monitoring things that supposedly make us healthy. So a lot of this we have to bear responsibility for, and it's unfortunately, it happened generations, decades ago, and we have to clean up the mess. We have to
And we
break
can,
free of that.
yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. And we can start with ourselves,
Absolutely.
starting to be self
Absolutely.
sustainable. That is the very first step. Start saving your own seeds, start growing your own food, start raising your own animals. It's so crazy to me that somebody can go and eat beef in the store, yet they shun a farmer for killing a cow. Do you know what happens to those cows and those commercial farm lots? They
Right.
suffer
Right.
their entire lives. They're filled with fear and stress and sadness, and you eat that meat,
Right.
which resonates with those energies, and those energies become part of you.
Yes.
When meat is raised by somebody that cares for it, there, it is sad when you have to butcher that animal, but
Sure.
they had a great life.
Really.
And I really, I raise rabbits. We raise them for meat. We love our dogs. Even if I was a vegetarian, I'd raise these rabbits for meat and butcher them because I love my dogs and that's what they eat.
Sure.
But the meat, they're cared for, they're loved. They come up to me, I pet them. The one bad day they have, I like to say they don't remember it, but we
Right.
try to make it as painless as possible for them. And
Right.
I
I
would
think
hope that's how I end someday.
I think people need to rethink things because for me, especially in my practice, most people rely on convenience. I go to the store, it's convenient, it's already prepared for me. I can't raise things at home. I don't have time. I work, I do this, I do that. We need to rethink what convenience is, and people who raise their own food and people who use farmers like Tammy and Bruce, that's just rethink your convenience. They're doing the hard work, but they're providing you good food. And if you don't have a farmer near you, either go look for one or start doing it yourself.
Right.
But I think it all kind of goes back to how much overreach are we going to allow? Like Bruce was saying, Pennsylvania says they feel like you can't even grow your own food or they'll tell you what to eat. sorry, screw
Right.
that.
Right.
I'm
Well,
sovereign. We're all sovereign here. And
yes.
I say, we need to stand up. So, Bruce, what's the next step?
Take responsibility for your own life. All right. Go. It's You can stop going to the grocery store and go to your local farms and purchase stuff, but don't just assume that that farmer is doing things right. Okay, we got a dairy farm right down this, within walking distance of us. I would never go to him and ask him for raw milk from his cows because I've seen how he raises them. If a farmer has nothing to hide, he will tell you exactly how he grows his stuff. All right. You want to come to my place? I will take you and show you how my chickens are being raised. I will take you and show you the pigs that I'm raising. You can pet the goats. You can feed the animals if you want to.
You could pet the
All right?
pigs.
Yeah, yeah, you can feed the pigs. All right. I'll show you, what I do to uh, keep the fertility up in the soil. You want to come and help for a day? I'll let you move chickens and pull weeds and stuff. Um, Stop putting your safety and your well-being in somebody else's hands and take responsibility for it yourself. And that's really what it comes down to. We could use the excuse of time and convenience and whatnot, but really we don't want to take responsibility for our bad decisions. Okay.
Mhm.
We can say, well, I got this at the store. It should have been safe. The government was looking out for me and this and that. It's not my fault that I got sick from this. Yeah, it is. You bought it.
And
You
and
know,
that's the biggest misconception is most people think that the government has their back. And that is far from the truth. Far from the truth.
right, right.
For sure. And
And I
another
think
thing I
exactly
think,
what Bruce, I'm sorry.
well, I was just going to say that I think another issue is that our, I mean, we're lazy. In the West, we are lazy now and nobody wants to work, and farming is hard work.
Yep.
I mean, when I just growing food, I have a 50 by 50 foot garden and it encompasses a lot of time. It's labor intensive, but it is so well worth it and it keeps you
Sure,
fit,
absolutely.
and you are connected to the ground. You're healing the inflammation of your body and dispersing those pent up electrical magnetic frequencies that are around you, bombarding you all the time. There's
Mhm.
just so much benefit to it.
Right,
I
absolutely.
was just going back to what Bruce and you were saying. It is about personal responsibility. And I think in this country, especially, we have relinquished personal
Oh, absolutely.
responsibility. We're
Yeah.
saying, just tell me what to do next. And this is the time that we have to put our foot down and we have to say, no more.
Right,
Yes.
Stop reaching into my personal life. Don't tell me what to buy, what to eat, who I can buy from. And if I want to grow my own food, and I agree with you, Lisa, it's absolutely exhilarating to watch things grow. To me, I look at it as a miracle. I put a seed in the ground and oh my God, I get food to eat. How incredible is that? And I
Yep.
think people have lost touch with nature. And I think that's what we need to get back to.
Absolutely. I mean, you can even put a seed in your mouth before you plant it. It will pick up what your body is lacking from the saliva in your mouth, and it will make sure those plants are grown with the nutrients that your body needs to thrive. And you're going to trust somebody that profits off your sickness more than that seed. That's what so many people are saying right now. It's crazy. But
right,
it's so nice to see there are a lot of people that are delving into this,
right.
delving into self sustainability. Even my daughter, who's 28, she's learning to can. She's going to have her first garden. She wants a beehive. So it's nice to see the younger generation picking up on this stuff.
Right. And it's not just the people like Amos Miller or farmers who are making a living selling directly to a consumer. It is the private individual. Okay. The Department of Ag wants you to register your home garden with them. They're now saying that home gardeners are contributing to climate change.
Which is nonsense.
Um,
Sorry.
you know,
Fine.
I,
Every time
you know,
somebody says climate change, I have to put that in there.
right.
Yeah.
Now, as far as pollutants that go into the soil, a lot of home gardeners do use a lot of stuff that they should not be using. That's their choice. You know, I'm not here to say that you can't use Miracle Grow or something like that. That is, you have every right to do that. But you know,
I wouldn't
to
recommend it.
right. But to shut a home gardener down because for something as silly as climate change, yeah, come on.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
they
know this was pretty cool when I learned this. Years ago, when people heated with wood before the discovery of electricity, they would put their wood ash out on their garden and their plants would just grow like crazy. Well, as soon as electricity was discovered, nobody was putting their wood ash on their garden anymore. Everybody jumped on the electricity bandwagon. Now there's no more minerals that are coming from those wood ash into the soil.
Mhm.
And on top of it, now they're to create more electricity, they're damming up the water. So
Right.
no more natural erosion of the minerals from the mountains into the floodplains. Now all the minerals are sitting at the bottoms of these dams.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you eat entirely organic or not. You're not going to get all the benefits, all the nutrients that your body needs to function properly. You
Right.
need to build the soil up, So that's what I like to consider myself as a soil farmer, because I have redworm composting. There's the rabbits that are my main priority for the manure to build the soil and build the microbes up and
Right.
build the nutrients up for the
Right.
health of us.
Right.
Well, I
Yeah.
know Bruce is actually working on biochar. He's going to start doing biochar. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
think
awesome.
simple things. Even I mean, you guys live on a farm. You live out in a sort of an open area. I live in the suburbs, and I still can do a lot of what you're saying. I've got
Absolutely.
a much smaller garden in the backyard. I grow plants in the house hydroponically.
Right.
I have, just two composting bins in the backyard. It's not difficult. I mean, all you need
Right.
is a little bit of space and start somewhere. And that's, I think, where if we take back the personal responsibility, tell the overreaching oligarchs to basically back off. We're
Pounds.
self-sustaining. We're going to do what we're going to do,
Mhm.
but we have to do it as an entirety. We can't do it
Yes.
onesie
Right.
twosies. We need everybody to
Right.
join in
Yep.
and say no more.
Right. Right. And the other thing is, you don't have to do everything. Okay. You grow tomatoes. Find a neighbor that has a couple of chickens in their backyard. Trade tomatoes for eggs. You don't have to do everything yourself, um, but you should do something. Um, our patio out back, I had about a 12 by 16 spot. I did nothing but containers in that. I had something like 150 different vegetables and herbs growing in that small spot. You could do the same thing on a patio in a condominium. Joel Salatin, he has a book, one of his books. He talks about raising chickens in an apartment.
Hmm.
You don't have to worry about the smell. Using the deep litter method. To reduce the smell, so that your neighbors don't even know that you have. You could do the same thing with rabbits too. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
yeah. So there's a
So
lot of
how
things
does
you
the
can do.
Amos Miller trial relate to the small farmer like yourself? How does this impact you?
How does this impact me? I've had my run-ins with the government. Nothing near to the extent of Amos. It's been just for small infractions. He's on a much larger scale than I, but he's not what you would consider big ag in that respect. Um, the real precedence that this sets is in the private membership clubs, and the individual's right to food of their choice. If they can eliminate the private membership clubs or the herd share programs where you purchase a portion of a cow and you get, X number of gallons of its milk raw, if they can eliminate that stuff, then they will have complete control basically over the food system and they can feed us whatever crap we want to. They
And
want
do you
to.
think that's their goal?
I think so. I hate to be pessimistic about it,
Well, they're
but
Well, it's
storing.
realistic. I mean, if that's what they're trying to do, that's a realistic statement then.
yeah, I do. It's just one more way of controlling us. Um,
Well, I mean, they're storing all the seeds in vaults around the world, so that should tell you something too. They're trying
right,
to destroy us.
right. But I
So
mean,
so what does the average person do? I mean, how do you get enough people together to say no, I do not comply?
you just
Yeah,
do it on your own. You just don't comply. Don't wait for somebody else to join you in this. Do it yourself.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
Because there's so many people that they might agree with what you're doing, but as soon as something bad happens to you for doing the right thing, they cower, and
Yeah.
Right,
they're scared at
right,
to be reprimanded for not obeying. Uh, the slave or overlords, I guess, was what we should call them. I don't know, but
Mhm.
right. Yeah,
We need to go back to the 50s and 60s because that was the era that I grew up in, and community was still very strong. Neighbors helped neighbors. There was
sure.
a lot of community togetherness, and it wasn't to go to swim meets and soccer games, it
Right,
was to help neighbors whatever they needed, whether it was food, clothing, shelter, whatever. If a neighbor was in need, another neighbor was there, or many neighbors were there. We've lost that sense of community. And I think that's what we really need to build on. So we
absolutely.
set the example and then hopefully draw people into that who agree
Right.
Right,
with us.
right,
We've completely lost that. I mean, even
yes.
even our neighbors are not super close, but there's no they always say get to know your neighbor. Well, we don't really know our neighbors, and if we were in need, if I walked over to their house, they'd be like, "Who are you?" you know. So what we have done over the course of the last several years is we started to get to know other farms. We started getting introduce ourselves and say what we're doing, and because there's certain things that we don't produce that other ones do, so we can still have a good variety for the community. Even though it's we make sure that it's chemical free and things like that, but we've started to get to really know these other farms. And the interesting thing, last year we started having farms coming to us like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, I grow this. Do you want to buy some of this from us? So all of a sudden, we noticed for like a couple months where farms must have been talking, because we had one farm that said, oh, so and so from this farm said that you're doing this, and do you want to buy some of this from us? So that has been fantastic because we've been able to get to know some of the other farms and work with them.
Well, I
right.
think if you don't know your local farms, there's a website you can go out to, localharvest.org.
Mhm.
Put in your zip code and it'll tell you the CSAs, the farmers markets. But don't just trust because they're in an app that they're growing food the right way.
Right.
Right.
You still have to talk to the farmer. You still have to ask the questions. Do you use chemicals? If it's if they're raising animals, do you vaccinate or do you give hormones? You have to ask all the questions. You have to be an educated consumer. And
Yes.
when you get the answers that you want, then that's the farmer. Just
Right.
because he's convenient, it's not helping you if he's not
Right.
growing the food the right way. So
Right.
find the farmer that does the right thing. It may take you have to drive a little bit for
Mhm.
it, but you have to get rid of the notion it has to be convenient. You
Right.
have to start thinking about your health, your family's health, and the health of the community.
Well,
Right.
and we talked about this before. Um, Farmers markets. Everybody thinks that they're getting fresh local produce from a farmer's market, and that is actually far from the truth as well. I mean, it's sometimes it's better than grocery store bought, but most times, 9 out of 10 times, these people that are at the farmers markets are actually importing their product anyway, their produce. Um, so you have to ask them, and you'll be able to tell. You have to use your intuition, you have to use your discernment. Are they telling you the truth when they say, oh yeah, we grow this here? you know
Yeah.
um how, and their demeanor, how, what their demeanor
And
is.
when they say it's organic, ask for their certification. They should have a certificate.
Yeah.
It's not just trust but verify. You really need to do that.
But like the labels, like I said, was talking about earlier, organic can be crap compared
Yeah.
to what real organic is. The farmer I used to work for, he wasn't labeled organic, but he considered himself beyond organic because he took better care than what the organic label actually did.
Yeah, the
So,
reason why I say that is because that's the way a lot of farmers market get around you. They say, "Oh, they're
yeah,
organic." I then still ask the questions: do you use chemicals,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Because if you quiz them, they're not prepared for it usually, and so you
Right.
catch them off guard, and you
Right.
usually get the truth. They don't go, it's like deer in the headlights, and they're like, "What? Why are you
yeah,
asking me this?" But I think if more people did that, they would recognize that people want quality food. And
Yep.
we need to get away from all the crap food. There's nothing but crap usually in the grocery stores.
Right.
Yep.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think a big thing is though their demeanor when you do confront
Yep.
them about that.
Yep.
I went up to a farmer. He had beautiful, huge cauliflower heads, and I was like, "Wow, I've never seen cauliflower so big. Is this organic?" And he laughed. "You can't grow cauliflower organic. There'd be worms all through it."
Mhm.
And I was like, I put the cauliflower back. And I was like, "What is he talking about?" This is when I first started getting into this stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. We
they
had
kind
a.
of just it well, even another story real quick was when I went to a feed store. I wanted organic feed for my chicken, non-GMO feed for my chickens, and they laughed at me.
Mhm.
Well, why do you need that? They never even heard of such a thing before.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a farm that's not far from us at all that has an outdoor stand, and they're busy all the time. And the one day she was doing strawberries, and since we don't really grow strawberries, I went to go get some strawberries. And I asked her, I said, "So are you spraying these strawberries? Because typically strawberries are sprayed." And she's like, "Well, so, well, we use what, and I'm like, "Okay, you just answered my question." Well, let it
Yep.
go.
Strawberries, I think, are the number one fruit that holds the pesticides,
Yep.
right? And when you start eating organic, you
Mhm.
eat one of those pesticide strawberries, you can tell the difference.
Oh
That's
yeah.
all you taste are the chemicals in it.
Well,
Right.
let me before, because I know Bruce wanted to say something here. The other thing that people have to get past is that beautiful, pretty, bright red tomato or that bright red strawberry, or chemical free growing typically does not produce the prettiest fruit in the world, okay, or veggies in the world, but they taste better. Just because they're not perfectly round or they don't have that little teeny wormhole. What's that saying? Like uh, if the insects are at that particular fruit, it means that it's a good fruit,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Something.
You want to eat the apple that the bugs are eating.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably seen the different videos that they're posted online. A guy tries to give a hamburger from a fast food place to like a bear, and the bear just turns away and won't eat it. They're smarter because they're
Yes.
using their senses.
Mm-hmm.
Their God-given innate wisdom tells them that's not real food. Where we as humans, we've kind of dismissed that. We're like, oh, whatever, we'll just take whatever's there. That's not the way we're meant to live. We're really meant to live and function in such a way that we live happy, healthy lives instead of getting sick. And the food, the water, the air, everything is making us sick. So we
Hmm.
need to get away from that and get back to taking personal responsibility for everything.
Yes. Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Were you gonna bring up something else, Bruce?
Well, uh, it's not all doom and gloom. We have definitely seen an uptick in new customers coming to us, telling us that they are looking for an alternative to the junk in the grocery store. The people are waking up to it. It's a slow, arduous process, but they are starting to get to that. I think, regardless of anybody's opinion of 2020 and all the crap that went down that year, it did bring to light the frailty of the food system, and there was a lot of shortages in grocery stores, not just because people were stocking up, but because processing plants weren't running, because well, you can't social distance and run a machine, you know, and all that crap, you can't.
Yeah.
It woke a lot of people up to what's going on, to I gotta think a little bit more about taking care of myself.
And what you just said, I think people have very short term memories.
Yes.
They have already forgotten what happened in 2020, and they're destined to let it happen again if they don't pull themselves back and say, now, wait, if they did this then, what's keeping them from doing that again?
Right.
And that includes this whole thing with Amos Miller. They're
Yes.
now targeting people who are selling healthy food.
Yes.
That means they're targeting us, that we're not supposed to have healthy food. We're supposed
Right.
to have their crap food, and
Right.
they want us to keep us sick because that whole medical industrial complex wants us to be sick. So we're
Yeah.
always paying back to big pharma. This
Right.
is where we have to say no and start somewhere, whether it's your own food that you're making, which I encourage everybody to do, just like Bruce had said, whether it's you find the farmer that's growing chemical free, doesn't matter if they've got an organic
No.
certification or not, but they're doing things the right way. And I think that's where we make a difference,
Right.
that we take back responsibility for our health. And
Right.
that includes nutrition being number one on the list.
It it,
Yeah,
it,
well,
it does. You know, going back to the organic certification thing, I will never get myself certified as organic. To me, all that means is you filled out the paperwork.
It's a money grab.
It
mhm,
is. It
right.
is. It is a marketing tool. That's all organic certification is in my mind. You know,
Yep.
but as far as keeping us sick, a sick person is less likely to try to buck the system. It's like you guys go ahead, start the revolution without me. I just got to take my high blood pressure medicine, and then I'll join you. Yeah, you know,
Yeah. But with the cost of food right now, I mean, it's expensive even to buy crappy food.
it it,
I
it is.
mean,
Yeah,
it pays for itself. Just figure out how much you pay in groceries every week.
r-
Subtract that by how much you bring home every week.
right,
And then figure out how much a packet of seeds is going to be and how much you're going to grow with that one little $3 packet of seeds. It might take you a few months to get that, but it's going to be well worth it.
right,
But
Your time and your
ultimately,
effort, your health.
ultimately, when you grow your own food, then you save the seeds from that food.
Yeah.
And it's like this, replenishing cycle. You don't
right,
have to keep going out and buying seeds. I do that every time. We had
right,
Yeah.
spaghetti squash the other night. I'm there rinsing out the seeds. It's like it's become second nature. And
right,
I think once you start doing it, you'll realize it's not as difficult as you think it is. It
right,
just takes a little bit of knowledge, and you can find it here in this podcast. You can find it online. You can find it from your local farmer, who I'm certain would be happy to help you.
right. And saving seeds, from things you've grown over time, those seeds will become more adapted to your soil, your climate, and everything else, and they will do so much better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of good tutorials, good people that are showing people how to grow their own food,
Right.
videos on YouTube. There's a lot. And this happened not only to Amos Miller, but not too long ago, there was another Amish farm that got raided as well. It was just probably 4 or 5 months ago. I can't remember where it was. Michigan, maybe? I can't
Uh,
remember, but
I
it was
do.
the same thing.
I do recall. So raw milk has been on the radar for forever. I mean, Angela, you can't buy it in Maryland. You know.
Nope.
I
It
can't.
says for pets when you
Right.
find it. It always has to say
There
for
are
pets.
there are states where you can't even get it for pets,
Right. New Jersey.
or it has to be altered in appearance so that for pets.
Right.
So I think it's Nevada where you cannot sell raw milk that is white. It has to be colored so that it's not confused with regular milk.
Why don't you, can you tell people what the benefits are of raw milk? Because a lot of people probably don't know that, and there's so many.
There are. I mean, when it comes to pasteurized milk, like I said before, to me it's just white water. They're, when you pasteurize it, you pretty much destroy everything that's beneficial in that. Um, the big thing, how I always present it to people with raw milk is a true food. Okay, there are only two true foods in this world. Okay, tomatoes, chickens, cows, green beans, those are all just plants and animals that we can eat and get nutrients from. Milk is a true food. The whole purpose of it is to grow and benefit new life. As a result, it's got everything in there that is necessary for that life to grow. The other true food would be honey. That's why you go back into ancient texts, or the Bible. Talk about the land of milk and honey as being a rich area, because as long as you have those two things, you will never starve. You know, um, the other great thing about milk that when we do consultations with for sick animals and such is the fact that because the milk is raw and it has not been pasteurized, all the digestive enzymes are already in the milk. So that milk will basically digest itself for you. It requires very little effort on the part of your body to process it and absorb those nutrients. The over half of the energy requirements of the body go to digestion. When we free up a lot of that energy by eating something that will digest itself for you, that's a whole lot of energy reserve that the body can put into healing itself.
Yeah.
It's a great detoxifier as well, internal detoxifier. It can be
Yeah.
used topically in some cases as well for different things. It
So I mentioned this during our Power Up series, but baby formulas, our adult
oh,
baby formulas, do you know how many? So, first of all, how many nutrients does a human need to function properly? It's like 90 some.
something like
90 minerals, vitamins,
Yeah.
nutrients. There are only 11 in our baby formulas. 11.
right,
Farmers learned a long time ago that if their cow, let's say, was nutrient deficient, they could lose their whole entire herd.
right.
So the animal feeds are actually packed with more nutrients than our baby formulas to
Hmm.
grow a human. So if you fed your baby dog food, it would be healthier than if
Right,
you fed it the baby formula because there's about 30
right,
nutrients, essential nutrients, I believe, in the animal feeds. I mean,
hmm,
it's,
right,
I don't know. I don't know about this crazy
right.
place.
The, the other, and this is just the milk nerd in me coming out. Um, each animal that produces milk has some sort of specific characteristic to it. Okay, um, goat's milk is much more easy for us to digest than cow's milk is. Camel milk is high in insulin, so it is great for people with diabetes. Um, the most unusual one that I've heard is platypus milk, because a platypus does not suckle from off its mom. It's the mom secretes it onto its stomach, and the young drink it off of her belly. Platypus milk is actually very high in antibiotics because it gets exposed to the air and the dirt and whatever that might be on the mother's body. Each animal's milk has some unique trait to it that is beneficial to us.
I love it when I learn something new. I never heard that from platypus milk. That's great.
Yeah, I'm a
Key is
bit of a
finding
milk nerd.
Well, I just wanted to throw this out there too. 90%, I think it's 90% of the antibiotics in this country go to our commercial animals
Yes.
because they are so sick and diseased. And we ingest that. So that's why most people, when you're sick now and you go to the doctor and he prescribes you an antibiotic, it doesn't work for you because you are already pumped full of these antibiotics from the milk you drink, from the cheese you eat, from the eggs you're eating, and you're creating antibiotic resistance, which creates superbugs. So that's why there's all these super strains too
Right.
of different sicknesses.
Right.
It's not only because you're weaker, it's because you guys are creating this by eating all this poisoned, antibiotic ridden meat, and I mean, I've had family members go to the doctor 4 different times, had to get 4 different antibiotics and nothing's working. I give them colloidal silver. They're better the next day,
Right.
And I don't
Right.
think it's just the antibiotics. I think people don't realize that this commercial farming, if you have an animal that has some sort of sickness, like a tumor or something, they'll chop it up into pieces so you can't see where the tumor was, but they're still going to sell you this
Right.
tumor-ridden
Right.
piece of meat
Right.
that you have no understanding where it came from. It's in a package with cellophane over it, and you think it looks okay to you, but you didn't see the portion they cut off that had this hardened tumor in it. So to me, the more you buy commercialized food, the more you put yourself at risk. As soon as you
Absolutely.
step back and start saying, I value my health over convenience or over what is, the simplest way to go, and start looking for the good food, start looking for farmers that really know how to grow good, healthy food. Look for the places that sell the products that are going to keep you healthy rather than just drive to the local grocery store. Because if we stop supporting them because we say we don't like your food, guess what? We're sending them a message. We don't want your crap anymore. So they'll start getting in what you want because they need to make money or they're going out of business.
Right.
But we have to do it again as a community. We just can't do it onesie twosies.
Right. Right. Yeah, and going back to the medications, the antibiotics, just because that package of chicken says antibiotic free doesn't mean it wasn't injected with something. All right. Everybody's all concerned about the mRNA in the new human vaccine for you know what. They've been using it in chickens since 2014, and they switched to that because of the pushback over antibiotic resistance. So just because that package says no antibiotics used doesn't mean that that bird wasn't injected with something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then didn't
Well,
they
they
start
say
with?
that. Oh, sorry, Tammy.
Oh,
Go
that was
ahead.
okay. Didn't they started with chickens and then they moved into what?
So I think they started with chickens. I think I'd have to go back and look at my notes. I think it was in 2014. They started using it in pork, I think in 2016. And then 2019 or 2020 was when they started using it in beef.
So
And
it's in
now
all the meats we're eating.
I recently heard, and I haven't been able to verify this, that they are using it on farm-raised shrimp as well.
Well, nobody should eat farm-raised shrimp, period.
Right.
No.
Nobody should.
But
It's
Well, I think
disgusting.
it just came out that they're growing lettuce with it now too, right?
well, they haven't
And
quite mastered that yet. It hasn't entirely hit the market yet. They're still in because they just haven't quite mastered the. I think it has something to do with keeping the vaccine alive in the plant once it's been harvested. Don't quote me on that, but I think it has something to do with that. Um, but they have just recently approved the first genetically modified tomato. They just approved that January or February or something like that. I got a notice that it was approved. So I forget exactly what the name of the tomato is, but it is a dark purple tomato. Um, Going under the guise that they are pumping it up with the anything that's got bright colors like that is said to have, higher antioxidants and, more beta carotene and that sort of stuff. So that's how they're portraying it. We boosted this tomato, so that it's healthier for you, but it is a genetically modified patented seed. Um, it'll probably end up being the first one that is released to the general public. Up until this point, all genetically modified foods, you've needed a license through Monsanto or DuPont or whoever to grow it. But this will probably end up being the first one that makes it out to the general public.
Wow.
So what's the takeaway? The takeaway here is, we started off with Amos Miller, government overreach because of clean food, and they're just trying to shut everybody down that's doing clean food. So, ladies, what do we do? We've got to get this out there to everybody. People have to wake up, and they've got to stop supporting these grocery stores and these big corporate entities, and get smarter about where our food is coming from.
Yeah. And not to put you on the spot,
I think it
Bruce, but
starts
what
like
do you think will happen with the resolution with Amos Miller? Do you think there's a way out for him that he can continue selling his raw products?
He may be able to at some point start selling raw milk again. He's going to have a hard time doing the butter and the kefir and the yogurt and all that stuff, because it doesn't matter whether you've got the paperwork or not. It is illegal to produce and sell those products in Pennsylvania.
And
Okay.
and explain why, real quick. Why is it illegal to take a milk product and make it into butter?
Because the state considers it an adulterated item. You can take, with the proper licensing, you can take a gallon of raw milk and you can sell it. But you can't take that gallon of raw milk and turn it into butter and sell it, because it's been processed. It's gone through an alteration, a change.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So the moral to that story is buy your raw milk, make your own butter, make your own kefir.
Yes. The only thing that you can do with the raw milk and sell is make cheese, but you can only do aged cheese. See, I think last time I'd heard it had to be aged for 90 days. So you couldn't make mozzarella, because you don't really age that in the same respect that you do, say, a Parmesan or a Gouda or something like that. That is the only exception to an adulterated raw milk product that is legal in Pennsylvania.
So let's just put that in clear perspective. The government says by making butter, you're adulterating raw milk.
Yes.
Yet they can inject all sorts of crap into our animals. They can make genetically modified food and sell it to us. And none of that to them is adulterated. That's ridiculous.
Correct.
They're all, the adulteration is processing. That's what they're doing. They're using language against us.
Yes.
So again, we need to push back. We need to say no. If you're in Pennsylvania, you should be out supporting Amos Miller and supporting local farmers like Tammy and Bruce. You need to start doing it now, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck without food.
Right.
Lisa?
And you just touched on a good topic for one of your podcasts, understanding the language that's used against you.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
And I use the word understand there intentionally.
Well, we should put a book together of our language that we use against them. They might not like it.
Yeah.
All right, ladies.
Well, we're at the top of the hour very shortly. I want to thank you, Bruce, for coming on.
Sure.
A lot of information. Keep us updated on the Amos Miller story. We're going to hopefully be able to have a good resolution out of this, because farmers like him and like you are out there for our benefit. And there's no harm to it. No one has been harmed at all. Right. So I wish everyone will take this to heart and start taking personal responsibility. Meet your farmers, get to know who grows your food, who raises the animals that you eat, and don't rely on commercial farming.
Right.
That's
Very
right.
good.
We'll see
All right.
everyone next week.
See you next week. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.